Hello and welcome to Talking Chiefs, the latest Soccerbeat podcast. I've got Tsepo Masilela with me, Bafana legend, Kaizer Chiefs legend. And guys, as well, before we get started, we around 47,000 subscribers. We're nearly at the 50,000 subscriber mark, and that's going to mean 50,000 rand up for grabs for prizes. So hit that subscribe button, and yeah, let's get over that mark and get the prizes distributed. Okay, so Tsepo, we're talking today about Kaizer Chiefs' transfers. Some rumors, some confirmed signings, or at least we think confirmed signings. They haven't officially been unveiled by the club. And then a couple of players also offloaded. I'm actually going to start with the two offloaded players. We've seen Mduduzi, Mdantsane and Edmilson Dove. They've both gone. They've both been released. Dove's contract was up, and Mdantsane came to an agreement with the club and took a settlement, or the club released him. What do you make of those two? Are those players you would have been happy to see leave? Would you have kept them? We know Chiefs are playing CAF competition, so they're going to need a strong squad. How do you see those two outgoings?
Yeah, man, let me start with Mdantsane. It's been long coming. I don't really think he got such out of Chiefs. I don't really think we saw them Mdantsane of Cape Town City. So it's been long coming. He's been in and out on loan, injured. If I'm not mistaken, he was involved in a car accident, at some point. So I would have released him, if the boys want to go also, and look at if they've signed a boy from that was playing in England, so you want to free up space, and you don't want a squad of 40 where the coach cannot work with the guys now. It becomes very chaotic and messy. And going back to Dove, when he recovered. I think he played a huge part in Kaizer Chiefs, winning the Nedbank Cup. I think he played a massive part. But again, then now you ask yourself, is he a left back? Is he a left centre back? So if they went for Mako and they still have a Cross, I think Dove and Cross, they similar style or type of player where it's not a fullback that bomb forward all the game or add numbers in attack. They more like they invert or they hang back and let the right back go. So it's a tough one because I feel sorry for Dove, of course, because he came back and he gave it his all. He gave it his all. So yeah, but it's. As I said, you don't want a squad of 40 or too many unhappy players, and then it unsettles everyone. I would also, provided they have a replacement for Dove, I would also let him go.
Yeah, I think it's fair to let Mdantsane go. As you say, he never settled. He didn't play for Chiefs last year. And I think it's damning when he goes on loan to Richards Bay and he can't get any minutes there. He only played 36 minutes. That's quite concerning if he can't get a game at a team that, lower down the table. And that signing, when he signed for Chiefs, his goals were starting to dry up already for Cape Town City. So that move came maybe 3 years too late. When he went to City, that's when they probably should have signed him, Mdantsane. And then I think with Dove, I think I'm on the same page. He played a big part. So maybe he can, count himself a bit unlucky because when he came back from those 7 months out injured, Nabi put him straight into the team and he seemed quite excited to have him back to boost the left back position where he had some issues, of course. And Dove also played centrally and he did a good job. So yeah, he's probably can count himself a little bit unlucky. But anyway, speaking of left backs, you mentioned Paseka and Mako. That one looks like it's done. I know you've discussed him a little bit with Peter. I'm keen to hear your opinion on that, specifically because Chiefs are also being linked with Terrence Mashego. If he does leave Sundowns, if he agrees to settlement or Sundowns allow him to leave, is that someone you'd look at? Do you think both can fit in the squad? Two left backs who both are moving to play more football maybe than they would have if they'd stayed at their clubs. How do they fit and how do you compare the two of them?
Now it becomes a challenge for the coach. If you say both they can get game time, but that's not guaranteed. Let's say they start with Mako and he's playing well, he's doing well, the team is winning, the coach feels like then Mashego finds himself in a similar situation as in Sundowns. You join the team and there's no game time and you get him frustrated again. But from again, maybe when they do signing, they look at the age. Who can give us a 6 years? Who can give us a 2 years? But if you have Mako and you have a Cross, unless you're gonna release Cross also, and then you can bring Terrence. In my opinion, it would make sense, and also because of the squad number, as I mentioned before. I know in South Africa you find this tendency of teams having like 45 players in their books, and then now they have to start loaning out players. And I prefer a manageable squad. So in training, you get the quality of training, and the coach, is happy, can work with a manageable number of players. But
Yeah.
if Cross is there, then I don't bring Mashego. I think he needs to go to a team where he's gonna get back to the groove, start to play week in, week out, and he at some point he was one for Bafana, but you have to play to fight for the position or to stand a chance of being selected by Bafana. And as I said also before, big tournaments are coming up. Hopefully qualify for the World Cup and AFCON. So if I were to advise Terrence Mashego, he needs to look at a place where he's going to play regularly. He needs to find a team where he's going to find that joy, and that excitement, that of playing week in, week out.
Yeah. No, I think I agree with you, especially maybe if Basadin were to leave Stellenbosch, then Mashego going there would be a good move for him. I think we forget that Mashego actually went to the last AFCON. He was Aubrey Modiba's backup. He was in that squad. So if he's playing regularly, Hugo Bruce clearly likes him as a player. He can still, at 28 years old, get himself to those major tournaments, as you mentioned. And I think with Mako, you've already got a player he's a bit older. He's 31, but Mako's very experienced in CAF competitions. And before that, that knee injury he had, he didn't really have a lot of injuries. He was a very reliable player physically. So I think you're right. If he gets into the team and he's playing well, it's hard to take him out. Both players are, coming off injuries in their career in recent years. They probably need to be at a team where they're going to play. So maybe it's going to be hard to fit both of them there. So let's move on to the two other signings. You had a little bit on them earlier this week. They've signed Etiosa Ighodaro, it looks like, from Sundowns. Now, we know he's been at Sundowns for about 5 years now. He's never got into their first team, never made an appearance. He's been on loan all over Tuks and Chipper, Amazulu last season, and even Supersport the year before. When we spoke before about Percy Tau, I think we spoke about physical presence up top there. And it does seem like Nabi likes a physical striker. He had Floyd Mayele. Even this season, he played Chivavira at the start. He clearly liked his, that physical size, that profile. Do you think Ighodaro could maybe make that same step that Mayele made under Nabi before and be a striker that can score 13, 14, 15 league goals for Chiefs?
When I look at Ighodaro and I try to profile him, he feeds off the service. The strikers that can make something out of nothing. He's not that striker. He's not someone that's gonna drop deep, wonderful turn or take on two defenders, top corner. He feeds off the service. You need the service of the wingers, the wide players especially. Because he's a box striker. He wants to be in the box. He wants to challenge those crosses. He wants to get to the end of the crosses. So I think him scoring relies more on the service he's gonna get from the team. I don't think he's a Ribeiro player that can take on 2-3 defenders and magic, solo goals or individual brilliance. He's not that type of a striker for me, So the service will be key. And as you said, if you look at the pattern, right, they had Ranga. Ranga didn't work out. He was not scoring goals. And then they had to go for Morris. And I'm not sure if they're happy with Morris. So now they're going for a similar profile. A top target man who can hold the ball, who can allow the attacking players to join in by holding the ball. And I think with the right service, he can give them maybe 10, 12.
Yeah. You're speaking about the wingers and how many goals wingers need to deliver. I was looking at Pule Modi's season last year. In the league, he got only 1 assist, 0 goals. The other wide players weren't really scoring either, besides Lelepo, who maybe isn't a winger, but more like a wide forward. Do you think that's maybe an area Chiefs need to focus on even more than the number 9? Because You know, they have got number 9 options. They got Duba, they got Dupria. It's going to be hard to fit all these strikers in with Ighodaro as well. They've been linked with Velebai. Is there anyone else in the PSL that you think could be a good pickup for Chiefs? You know, for example, let's say someone like Darwin Gonzalez. You know, he was at Cape Town City. He's been released. The season before this, he got the most assists in the whole PSL. He's good cross with both feet. He can score goals. That could be a smart pickup. Is there anyone else in the PSL you think you might be willing to kind of target that could come in? Or is Velebai the one they really need to get, to get after?
Listen, in my the target that's I think they can go for right now. I think it's gonna be a race. Appollis, he's an exciting winger. I think it's about time he go to big team. Play pressure games, try challenge for trophies. I'm not saying where he's at. He's at the wrong team. No, I'm not by any means saying that, but I feel like he needs that next move in his career, that next step in his career. But I think it's gonna be the bezel for Appollis. In my opinion, I would really try hard. You also have Titus from Stellis. I like the boy. He's got goals in him. He goes forward, he creates havoc, he creates chances. Titus, those two for me. I don't know if they can make it happen, but I hope they do get maybe one from those two.
Yeah, and the other one linked is, of course, Mihlali Mayambela. He's been playing, Mihlali Mayambela's been playing overseas. Can he come back? Can he deliver in the PSL? He's played for Bafana. He was a starter through quite a lot of the qualifying before the AFCON when he kind of followed a favour, but that could be another one to look at as well. Maybe that's the sort of player, we've seen now while Tabotele's done since he's come back. Maybe it's worth bringing him back at this time now.
And I don't know what the story with Luda Singh, maybe also they must look at Luda Singh. And I don't know what's the story with Luda Singh, but we all know since the end of the season, a lot of players are being linked with Kaizer Chiefs.
Yeah. Okay, so to basically summarize, you've said no on a Mashego. I think for myself, I'd probably agree, just because it's going to be hard to fit in 2 players who need to play in that left back position when you've got Cross still as a backup as well. We've said Ighodaro, maybe he's got a good profile for Nabi, but he's not going to bang in those goals that you need, especially not unless they get some players who can provide a lot more service. And then the wide areas, we're saying Appollis could be a good pickup, or even Devin Titus down the right hand side with his speed. He's got double figures last season for goals. The year before, he scored a lot of goals, a lot of them in the Confederations Cup, where Chiefs will be. So yeah, so we've kind of come to a good little conclusion there that Chiefs' attack is the main focus, and maybe they shouldn't be focusing too much on the left back area anymore. Tsepo, some good coverage of the transfer rumors. I'm sure we'll chat soon and see when Chiefs actually confirm some of these deals before they go to the Netherlands for those 5 friendlies. Thanks a lot.